Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings upon each and every one who hears or sees this video. I'd like to start by saying I bear witness there's no God other than Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his final servant and the seal of all prophets. My name is Kenny Bomer. My Muslim name is Mujahid al-Islam, and I want to talk to you about what's transpired in the last few days, which has actually brought to mind a cartoon that I used to watch as a child by the name of Heckle and Jeckle. And if you're not familiar with what Heckle and Jeckle is, it's a cartoon about these two identical birds that are actually anthropomorphic yellow-billed magpies that were always acting real aggressively and mischievously, always trying to attack someone or something, and it's always unprovoked, so they're just attacking just to attack. And but usually what happens is in their cartoons is they would actually lose out to their foes in the end. And it reminds me of these two characters that contacted me this week in regards to challenging me to a debate, an online, on a streaming debate online on YouTube. And these gentlemen are Abdullah Samir and Abdullah Gondal. And as I began to prepare for the debate and began to do just a little bit of research on these characters and watching some videos that they've created in the past, I began to notice some things that were said that caused me to question what their intentions are. And what I mean by that is there were some things that they're saying in these videos that is really basic common knowledge that Muslims should know. And yet they are either purposely distorting the truth, or they're just simply ignorant of the truth. So they either think they know what they're talking about and they simply don't, or they're purposely attempting to distort the truth. And so based on these grounds, and based on some comments that I received from some Muslim brothers that contacted me, and these two gentlemen I didn't personally have any knowledge of. These are two characters that I don't have very much knowledge of. Usually I engage in dialogue with Christians, and very seldom do I come across anyone who is a so-called ex-Muslim and an atheist. And so I was very interested in engaging in this debate because, you know, I feel confident about what I would have shared in this debate. But in the process, once again, of doing research, and after hearing some brothers respond to me and telling me a little bit of history about these two characters, I have to reject this offer. And I'm going to reject this offer based on primarily about a video that was created by these two gentlemen where they actually tried to mimic a surah of the Qur'an. Of course, we know in the Qur'an that the challenge was issued 1400 years ago, and it's never been accomplished yet. They created a so-called surah, and what they did was they used some basic nonsense that didn't really mean anything, had no meaning to it, and they also plagiarized the Quran by actually copying and pasting or incorporating things that the Quran actually says into this so-called surah that they created. And one of them, which I believe was Gondal, actually did the recitation in an attempt to create something similar to a surah of the Quran. And for one, the Quran is unmatchable. It's impossible. You're not going to do it. You're not going to achieve it. No one's done it in 1400 years. And guess what? By the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will never be achieved. And no, sir, gentlemen, you did not achieve that. You did not achieve that. For one, the stuff that you said in the video made no sense whatsoever, and you plagiarized the Quran in the process. So you created nothing unique and nothing original. The only thing you created was, you know, just ridiculous nonsense. It's basically what it boils down to. And based on that, based on this attempt to mock and to belittle the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I have to reject this debate. Not because I don't want to do it, because there's a part of me that wants to eat you guys alive. But there's another part that tells me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us directly in the Quran how to address you. And that's one of the beauties of Islam. And I tell people this all the time that have a limited knowledge of Islam, or have no knowledge of Islam, as I do dawah and try to share Islam with them, that there's nothing that we'll ever experience in this life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God, our creator, has not addressed in the Quran itself. Nothing. You can't think of anything that we will ever experience in this life that is not addressed in the Quran. Let me bring up what it says in Surat Al-An'aam in the 68th ayah, or verse. The Surat Al-An'aam, for those who don't know, that's the 6th chapter of Surah of the Quran, in the 68th verse. And it says, and when you, bear with me, it says, and when you see those who engage in false conversation about our verses of the Quran by mocking at them, stay away from them until they turn to another topic. And if shaitan causes you to forget, then after that, after the remembrance, sit not in the company of those who are of the zalimun, or the polytheists, or the wrongdoers, etc. So it's a direct instruction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is why this is my decision. I'm basing my decision on this verse and another one from Surat An-Nisa that I'll mention here in a second, and based on the video that I've seen, which is absolutely doing exactly what this particular verse is talking about directly. You're guilty of what this verse says right here, okay? And based on the research that I've done and listening to the things that these two gentlemen say, that is really simple common knowledge that they've either distorted on purpose or they just simply are ignorant of. If you're simply ignorant of it, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide you. If you're doing it on purpose, you can be assured that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to deal justly with you. And may He have mercy on each and every one of us on the day of judgment. So I'm not wishing any bad things upon you, but I'm simply telling you that I cannot engage in this debate, not because I don't want to, because there's a strong part of me that does, but I'm going to be in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I encourage any of my Muslim brothers that watch this video and interact with these guys to just simply boycott these guys. All they're doing is trying to look for publicity, trying to seek things of this world, basically, to make them feel self-sufficient, make them feel like they've really done something or accomplished something. You're accomplishing nothing. You're seeking out your own pleasures of this world and things that this world has to offer, such as the money that you're trying to make and the fame that you're trying to achieve, and just on down the line. And really, you're doing yourself a great disservice. And anyone who's following them is going to be the Quran tells us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to gather everyone amongst those whom they used to emulate on the day of judgment. So any of the followers of these types of people are going to be gathered amongst one another, and then you're going to dispute with one another. The Quran tells us about this, saying that you'll dispute with one another, and one group will tell the next, you deceived us. Why did you deceive us? You led us astray. And that group is going to respond back and say, no, we couldn't make you go astray. You did this by your own choice. We couldn't make you do anything. Constant bickering, trying to point the blame to one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, and you can be assured that everything that's ever been revealed in the Quran is confirmed, and despite your attempts to say otherwise. So in pointing that out, let me say this, and I want to bring recognition to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Each and every time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions punishment of any kind, and I know that both of these gentlemen in some videos have said that they turned away from Islam, and one of the primary things was because of the punishments of hell in the hereafter. Okay, but I remind you, if you don't know, that each and every time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a warning about a punishment, He follows it immediately with a phrase that says, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is the oft-returning and the most merciful. Okay, for those who repent. Okay, so those who turn back to Allah, there's always a way out. There's always a way out. And so I want to remind you of that. Okay, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on each and every one of us who fall victim to going the direction that our own self-inclinations, our own desires, our earthly desires lead us to, as the whisperings of shaitan come and just try to lead us astray. The Quran says that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cast Shaitan out of paradise, Shaitan responded and said, because you set me astray, because you cast me out, I will lie in wait for man on your straight path, and I will attack from before them and from behind them, from the right and from the left. You will not find most of them thankful. You will not find most of them to be obedient to you. And here we are, we see the vast majority of the people in this world are non-believers, meaning they're not of the three Abrahamic faiths. Okay? And so exactly what was revealed in the Quran is exactly what's taking place. One of the most important verses in the Quran, in my mind, which is what opened my mind to Islam, and praise be to Allah for that, is when it says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. This is the book of which there is no doubt. What does it say? For those who believe in the unseen, who stay steadfast in prayer, and on and on. What I wanted to point out is when it says who believe in the unseen, you are claiming you don't believe that there is a God or creator. You don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you can't see him. You don't understand these things. You haven't looked hard enough. You haven't opened your mind and your heart wide enough to be able to understand and grasp these things. Then it goes on to say, what does it say? As for those who disbelieve, it matters not if you warn them or do not warn them, they will not believe. Allah has put a seal over their hearts and over their hearing, and over their eyes is a veil. Okay? And this is talking about the people whose their heart has become so hardened and distorted and blackened that they'll never be able to see the truth. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that. I want to bring up Surat An-Nisa, the 140th ayah, and it says, and it has already been revealed to you in the book, that this Quran, that when you hear the verses of Allah being denied and mocked at, then sit not with them until they engage in a talk other than that. But if you stay with them, certainly in that case you would be like them. Surely Allah will collect the hypocrites and disbelievers all together in hell on the day of judgment. Once again, you're going to be gathered amongst those whom you used to emulate. So I wanted to create this quick video and just address these issues and say that I cannot debate you based on these verses right here, based on the research that I've done, based on the video that you created. If my Muslim brothers and sisters, if you haven't seen this video, don't pay it no mind. Just go right past it if you know what I'm talking about, because all these guys are doing is looking for earthly fame and earthly recognition and trying to see what they can get out of this world by it. And so just pass it on by. If they've tried to touch base with you about engaging in debate, just move on past it. It's not worth it. Based on these verses right here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, don't even fool with these people. They're mocking, they're trying to belittle, they're mocking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, and the beauty of the Quran, which is not the ink and the paper, it is the recitation. Okay? And I mentioned that in particular because in a video that I heard just today, they're trying to claim that there's 14 different versions of the Quran based on some little changes in the script and this and that. But once again, the Quran is only the Quran in the recitation, not in the paper and the ink. Any true Muslim knows that. Praise be to Allah. So I reject this offer of debate, and I suggest to all my Muslim brothers and sisters that you do the same thing if these gentlemen try to approach you with this nonsense. So I'll leave you as I came by saying Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace and blessings upon each and every one who hears or sees this video. Surely all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our God and our Creator.